That was called an anomaly. All right. And when they found Göbekli Tepe, now looking at 13,000 and probably older BP, they call all of these anomalous. But what's happening is there's so many anomalies, Alex, that the anomalies are telling a new story. Now, as a geologist, geologists have no problem with this story. For example, Robert Schoch,
Sure.
when he was looking at
The Sphinx.
the Sphinx, the erosion on the Sphinx. I was friends with John Anthony West before he died, and he was working with Robert Schoch. I would have my groups in Egypt when John West would have his, and I'd speak to his groups, and he would speak to mine at the hotel, and it was a lot of fun to do that. And Robert Schoch was the first geologist, as a sedimentary geologist. It said the erosion on the Sphinx is not aeolian. Aeolian is wind erosion. He said this is fluvial erosion, which means water. So it's the result of fast-moving water over long periods of time. The only time that hasn't happened in recent history, the only time that happened was over 10,000 years ago, the melting of the last ice age.
Right.
And he published this in AAPG, American Association of Petroleum Geologists. Geologists said, hey, what's the big deal? The evidence is there. No problem at all. The historians have a huge problem because this messes up all of the accepted chronology of history. So the geology is an agreement because of the evidence, but the stories that go with the historic evidence and the way that history has been, the sequence of history, that now has pretty much been destroyed. And to throw even another wrench into this, we sent probes to the moon, and we sent probes to Mars looking for bacterial life. So, for example, on the moon, they had a little lander that landed, and it's like a little spider-looking device. And then from the top, there's a little tube that pops up, and it shoots out what looks like sticky dental floss. And then they reel that dental floss through the dust looking for bacteria and bring it into a broth to cultivate the bacteria, not knowing that they're looking for signs of life as bacteria next to the walls of temples that are on the lunar surface that are documented and photographed all the way back to the Clementine missions for the moon, dating to 50,000 years before present. So the question is, who was there 50,000 years ago doing these? And this is a long answer to your short question. It used to be that the United States, the former United States, because we're not the same country anymore, and the former Soviet Union, now Russia, were the only countries
That could get there.
that had the money and the technology to get there. Well, both those countries are broke, and it's not a priority to go back to the moon. Both those countries signed agreements during the Cold War that they would not disclose what they found on the lunar surface, and they've honored those agreements. Now, the countries that have the money and the technology, China is one, never signed that agreement.
India just got one up there as well.
China and India are the two countries. India has Shiva 1 is the name of the
What a great
of the spacecraft. I think it's
almost
a great,
as good as Enterprise, but not bad.
I think it's great. It's great. So here's the thing. Now this is all. There's a big context here. China never agreed to that, and China has said publicly, when they land on the surface of the moon, when they're astronauts, I don't know what they'll call them, when they land, that they will televise live to the people of the earth everything that they find. And I believe that they will.